All right, Linda's doing the flea thing with Kitty. And she's removing fleas with a flea comb. All right, I don't really think he has that many fleas. We're gonna be working on just spelling corrections on page 23. So I'm gonna do a little bit of scroll here. A little bit of changes, there's been some scenes added. I'm not gonna do a full scroll right now, but I will do it, eventually I do that to let you read where it's developed. This is 4.5 years in making, off and on. I'm really confident on the opening. So I didn't do too many camera angles or too many camera shots, a little bit of medium shots, tracking shots, things I think that could help whoever, if I direct or whoever decides directing. And we're gonna go from Fight Night, which is, okay, yeah, I see. Page 14 and then through 23, just working on spelling. And this is gonna be introducing Grace Lippin, who's 40 years of age at this point. So he ranges from 40 to 50. Literally in the story, he goes from 10 years. This is 10 years ago. And then what it does is it goes into its fighting career. Like this movie jumps around. It's got a lot of different people and a lot of different vloggers. The common thing is they're mostly all vlogger or connected to YouTube or online platforms similar. And we immediately start in darkness, right here, wide shot, bright full moon in the dark sky. And this is just a vlogger narrator's voice. This could just be a random voice that's the narrator. I guess because I watched Barry Lyndon. But I like having a narrator there, and then we fade out, we fade back in, and we go into the whole great opening with the cat eating and The Year of the Cat by Al Stewart playing from a speaker, which I don't think copyright would be that big of a deal because it's diegetic and be coming from a speaker. The ending we'll have to talk about, and then we go right into the gothic vlogger connection with the black hearse and all that stuff. And I did some spelling corrections on that. Then after they're killed by the werewolf, which we only see the shadow, it cuts immediately to 10 years ago into this UFC fight night, which I probably passed right there. And I think it's on page 14. So we'll be just looking at 14 through 23. What I'm doing is just touch-ups right now. There we go. Page 14 right here, 10 years ago. It's a wide shot of an empty UFC arena and fighting cage. A handheld wooden sign arises in the frame before an empty UFC fighting cage. The sign is painted in red letters. That's obviously me quoting Rome, even though it's modern day. It's UFC, Ultimate Fighting Championship. But the sign just comes up and it just looks very almost kind of like Roman almost. I just say a handheld wooden sign. But that's what I'm quoting. And it has red painted letters. So painted in red letters 10 years ago. Those signs come up in the film. It's not too art house, but it does have some art house to it. Then we go right into Fight Night. You know, ding ding, it's 10 years ago. We know it's 10 years ago because it says it. And we're right now introduced to Grace Lippin. And Grace is introduced in the movie by lying on his back on a mat. That's the first time we see him. And St. Patty is kind of like pounding on him, you know, like kind of beating him up a little bit. St. Patty's real name is Kenny Killjoy. That was the one I was going to offer Cooper or anyone of that, you know, that style. He should be kind of a good looking, muscular guy, you know, kind of a little bit based on Shamrock, if you know Shamrock and Hoist Gracie. Kind of a buff dude, someone that has like a, you know, heart, a nice guy. But here they're fighting for show. So you kind of see like kind of how UFC is. It is a little like wrestling, only they really hit each other and stuff, and they really bleed and they really hurt each other. It's really rough. So we go right into this like kind of violence, you know, and there's gasps of air in the scene. This is all, there's no dialogue in this scene right here. It's just, you know, you're just introduced to these characters very quickly, and you see the patches. So St. Patty has a patch which has a 4-leaf clover on it. And you see Grace Lippin has the Apache patch on his gi. And you see that there's blood running on the patch. It says it right here. He begins to choke Patty. Patty notices the Apache Indian symbol patch has a single line of red blood running down it. So I don't want to get into a lot of extreme close-up and stuff because I feel like if I do that, I'm imprinting too much in the script and saying, you know, the filmmaker wants this, the filmmaker wants this, or the filmmaker should do this. Here, I'm leaving it up to more interpretation. I think the only time I've really picked it apart was the previous scene with the black hearse. It starts in darkness, and then it goes to the cat eating, and then it goes to the Gothic vloggers. Then after this little segment of just violence of them in UFC, bam, cut to burger joint, right? And then we're getting to the relationship with Grace and Rainey 10 years prior. He talks about the farm here. He talks about Barksville farm that he works on and horses. So he already has money. He's a pretty stable guy. He's meeting Rainey, and Rainey's kind of dorky. I'm not going to call her slow, but she literally tried to go off and be a rock star, right? And so she's got a little problem with drinking. She's an alcoholic. I don't say the word alcoholic in the script ever, but she does have a moment where she's drinking a natural light beer in this room by herself, and she goes back to bed. So you know, but we don't get into her addiction. We don't talk about her addiction. It's not an after-school special. We just notice that it's a problem, and then it's kind of left alone. So we don't really see a lot of it. There's scenes where she's in the, the balcony, or not the balcony, but the patio, smoking a cigarette. She's also kind of a cigarette smoker. She talks about Fleetwood Mac and, you okay, sweetie? And things like that. She's a little loosely, just very loosely based on Linda a little bit. Okay, I gotta do some corrections and then we're gonna cut here.